Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy 2022 to everyone. I thought I'd start out this year with something a little bit helpful. Seeing as I work at a camera store, I see a lot of people that are just now getting into film photography, which I love. I think that's fantastic. However, I see people making a lot of what I would call mistakes, or maybe just not looking at things quite the right way. So I thought that I would create this video to give some people some tips on how to maybe avoid some of those pitfalls when you're first getting into film photography. Okay, so step one, you're going to get your first film camera. So what do? Of course, you pop open Instagram and try and take a look and see what kind of output these cameras are capable of. Well, I think that's probably going to be your first mistake. See, Instagram is not the best platform for trying to figure out what a camera is capable of. When it comes to film photography, what really matters is the lens and then the film that you're putting into it. Most cameras are perfectly capable of putting out the exact same output. There's going to be differences, of course. If you're going to be using flash photography, say, there's going to be sync speed, the different kinds of attachments that are available for the camera, that sort of thing. But as far as the raw image quality, what really matters is the lens and the film you're putting on it. So don't get caught up in that Instagram game of, the best stuff is getting put up by Contax T2 owners or is getting put up by Nikon F3, or it doesn't really matter that much. So when you're just getting into it, buy a camera that's one, within your budget, two, makes you feel like shooting. There's no point in getting this fantastic camera that you just don't like. You just don't like shooting it. The whole point is to have fun. The whole point is to really get out there and want to shoot. I tried a Contax G1 and I picked it up and I would have rather thrown it across the room than put another roll of film through it. But that's just me. That camera didn't speak to me. So get a camera that you really, really like. Step two, make your mistakes on cheap film. Now, I know, once again, when you go to Instagram, you're going to see a lot of people shooting on Portra. You're going to see people shooting on, 400H. You're going to see people shooting on pretty expensive film stocks. Don't go that route first. Film is expensive, and it's only getting more and more expensive every single month. I'm shocked at how quickly film prices are going up, and that's beside just the annual raising of prices by Kodak, followed by Ilford, followed by Fuji. But even just month to month, film prices are going up. So if you're just starting out, get the cheap stuff. There's really no harm in it. You're going to screw up. I still screw up. I've been shooting since 2004. I still screw up a lot. So don't feel like you need to spend all of your money on, the most expensive film. But that said, and this is a big but, if you are learning, don't shoot expired film. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from people who are saying, I love expired film. It gives you a great effect. It's the best. That's not what I'm talking about here. Okay. Expired film is a really good way to get cheap film. That's great. However, it's unpredictable. Now, if you're really trying to learn, if you're really trying to stretch your legs and really see what this film photography thing is all about, and actually get better at it, don't start with expired film, because when something turns out wonky, how do you know that it was you that screwed up as opposed to the film screwing up? Expired film is really, really unpredictable. Even sometimes within the same batch, they can be unpredictable depending on how something was stored, depending on how old it is and the stock itself. Some stocks degrade faster than others. You're adding a lot of variables into learning. When you are learning something, you really need to try and, what I would say is stick with one or two film stocks that you're comfortable with, that are fresh. They are predictable. You know how they're going to react depending on how you shoot, or at least you will know. But if you start off shooting expired film, you never know if it's you making the mistake or the film. So what I would say is, fine, expired film is great. Once you get into it a little bit and you know what to expect, don't start there. Which brings me to number 4. Don't be afraid of medium format. Now, I know that the overall thinking seems to be start off with 35mm, move to medium format, and then, if you're crazy or you're a sucker for punishment, go ahead and go to large format. But I don't really think that it has to be that way. I think medium format is a great way to start with film photography. One, the film is a little bit cheaper than 35mm. True that you don't get as many frames as with 35mm. However, you shoot less, and you are more conscious of how you are shooting because the cameras by their nature are just slower to use than a 35mm is. So I wouldn't discount shooting medium format based on cost. I know that it seems that per frame, medium format is more expensive, but the fact is you take your time a little bit more in medium format and you just don't shoot as much. And there's a novelty factor. Medium format cameras are interesting. There are some that have waist level finders. There are some that are just, they're big and bulky and clunky. But there's a novelty factor. They don't perform exactly like a 35mm SLR does, or even a rangefinder. Yes, there are rangefinders that are medium format, and of course there are SLRs that are medium format, but they work differently. And many times they're simpler to use. So for a beginner, when you just have access to a few basic controls, your shutter speed, your film speed, your aperture, you have less to deal with than something with a lot of bells and whistles. So don't discount medium format right off the bat. I know it can be a little bit more expensive to get you started with it. The cameras tend to be a little bit pricier, but for the image quality that you're getting, I wouldn't say no to it right away. Okay, which brings me to number 5, point and shoot cameras. No. Okay, no. There's nothing wrong with point and shoot cameras. But if you are learning, don't go for a point and shoot camera because you can't learn. The camera is doing everything for you, right? I think having a point and shoot camera is great as a second body. It's great as something you just want to carry with you for those kinds that you just want to check your brain out and just take pictures for fun. Nothing wrong with that at all. However, if you are really trying to learn film photography, you do yourself no service by having the camera do everything for you. Plus, which is to say, point and shoot cameras break. They break a lot, like all the time. I have a box at work full, it's like this big by this big, full of broken point and shoot cameras, and nobody will fix them. I think there might be a couple of people online that'll fix them, but most people will not fix point and shoot cameras because they're cheaply made. They don't make those little parts anymore. They're super plasticky. They're throwaway cameras. They were never good. With a few exceptions, they were very cheaply made. They were never good. They were always meant to be, kind of throwaway cameras, right? Or just very casual cameras. So they're not built to last. If you want something that's going to last for a while, do not get a point and shoot camera. Get something that's built a little bit tougher than that. If you want something that you just can throw into your bag or purse and take with you and not have to think about it, point and shoot cameras are great for that, but don't expect them to last forever. Number 7, always err on the side of overexposure. Now, with film photography, you're typically going to be shooting with negative film. And with negative film, you want to give it more light than necessary as opposed to less light. So when you're first starting out, underexposure is the enemy. If you give your subject less light than you want, you're going to get muddy shadows. It's very difficult to recover your shadow detail in your photos. And I know that's going to make more sense later on as you get more into it. But suffice it to say, for now, give it more light, not less. It's kind of the opposite of digital photography, where to be safe, you would underexpose and then pull your shadows up later on. With film photography, or at least dealing with negatives, it's the opposite. You want to give more light and then be able to bring back your highlights later. There's tons of detail in the highlights in film photography, so you've got the room. I know that's going to make more sense later. Just trust me on this. If you have to play it safe, overexpose as opposed to underexpose. Of course, ideally, you usually want to hit your exposure bang on, but don't worry about that for now. Just give it more light as opposed to less. Tip number 8. Now, this is a little bit more of a selfish tip just because I have worked a little bit in the film lab at the store. So I see what they have to deal with. If you're shooting 120 film, now with 120 film, typically when you're done, there's this little fold right here, right? Let me see if I can get that in there so you can kind of see. It's thinking about it. Come on, focus, piece of shit. There we go. Okay. So, see this little fold right here? When you're done with your film, you're supposed to pull that tight and then fold the end under and then seal it. Focus. And then seal it. There you go, just like that. Now, the reason for that, or at least as far as I can see, is it makes it a lot easier to then unravel the film later on, or to cut open the film. If you don't seal it and you just fold it flat straight around, it becomes really, really difficult when it comes time to unwrap the film and then do your developing or put it on reels or whatever it is that you need to do. So fold it under, just like that, and your lab will love you for it, okay? If you don't, die slowly. No, don't die slowly. But I'm just saying, just do that. It's very nice to do, and it'll keep your film safe, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to then, or for your lab to go ahead and develop for you. Thanks. Number 9, don't be afraid to develop your own film. Now, with film prices going up, I understand it is expensive out there for film photographers right now. So I am all for any way that you can mitigate costs and keep on shooting. I love labs. We run a lab at the shop that I work at. However, I get it, you know, money is money. People got to eat. So I just wanted to show you, and I love you guys, so I'm going to sacrifice a roll of film just for you, that you should not be intimidated by doing this, okay? First things first, I'm going to take out this roll of 35 millimeter because I really don't shoot much 35 millimeter anyway, okay? So when you get film, right, it's going to have this little leader here. That's this little kind of like L-shaped edge right there. When you're developing it, when you're just going to put it onto a reel for development, you cut off this little leader part. At least that's what I do. And you know what? People do this all sorts of ways, right? So I'm probably not going to do it like everybody else. I develop a lot of film, but you know, people are doing it in better ways than I do. So if there is a better way of doing it, fantastic. Do it that way. You know, if that makes you more comfortable. Okay, so there's this. Now, when it comes out of the camera, your leader may or may not be out. Sometimes some cameras will leave the leader out once it's rewound. Some won't. If it's out like this, what I usually do, and this is just my process again, is I will rewind this back in so that it's not sticking out. There we go. So I see that's going back in just like that. Okay. And I will just pop this thing open because I'm not going to keep these canisters. Some people who are keeping them, they'll use a film leader retrieval tool. I don't mess around with all that. I use this trusty can opener here. And I'll just pop that off. This is sacrilege. It hurts me, really, just to open this and expose it to light. But I'm going to show you. Okay, this is what I do. Okay, so pop that off, just like that. The little top comes off right here. Okay, and then you just pop that out. Out comes the film. And you're going to be doing this all in a dark bag, right? So this is all going to be with your hands in. You're going to be doing it blind, which sounds really intimidating, but it's not so bad, truly. Okay, so in the bag, you're going to cut this leader off like this. It's actually really weird looking at it while it's happening. Kind of strange. Okay, it's kind of freaking me out a little bit. Okay, now I use these kinds of reels right here. These are plastic and they have these massive teeth, right? The teeth make it really, really easy to load. I have used the older Patterson ones. I've never used metal reels before in my life. I hear they're fun. And by fun, I mean very, very frustrating. So what I like to do, because I am lazy and I like to do this fast, is use these guys right here. They're a little bit more expensive than the regular reels, but worth every single penny. So all that you're gonna do is take your little cut off leader right there, find these big old teeth right here, okay? So you line these up together in the bag, and then I'm gonna feed them in just like that. And there, right? Pull this forward just a bit, like so. Get out of my face. Come on, focus. 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 There we go. Okay, and then from there, all you do is ratchet it forward, like that. Okay, that's all on there already. That fast, okay? Then I'm gonna cut it, just like that. Just like that. The film is already loaded, okay? And then you're gonna put that into your tank, in the bag, and move on, all right? It is not that hard, okay? And with these kinds of reels, it makes it so easy. I'm telling you, get these reels. I'll put a link in the description down below. Check out those reels. They'll make your life so much easier, and they work just as quickly with 120. So don't be afraid of developing your own film. There's much more to it, of course, as far as the chemicals and all that kind of stuff goes. But this seems to be kind of a sticking point for people as far as the difficulty. You know, they're convinced that they can't do it. They can't do it. It's not that hard. So get these kinds of reels. Get yourself a little changing bag. All the other equipment, of course, and just try it. It's really not so bad. Okay, and now for the last tip. Print your work. Okay, so if you are going through all of this trouble to use film, why are you going through this analog process and then coming out with a completely digital result? If you're just putting your stuff on Instagram, stick with digital. I mean, seriously, there's so little difference there. Like it's almost laughable to go through that much trouble and then not have any kind of solid analog tactile product at the end of it. If you really want to do this, print your work, because you're really going to see the fruits of your efforts. You're really going to see why you're doing all of this, and it's just going to be so much more enjoyable. When you get there, you know, I would even say try and, you know, at least once print in a dark room, because man, I mean, like, you talk about your fun and really seeing the process through all the way to the end. You know, the dark room is where it's at. Of course, I understand that dark rooms are few and far between. Most people can't, you know, because of logistics or because of cost, can't put them into your own home or your own place. I get that. So just print whatever way that you can. And that way you'll really start to see why you're doing it. You'll see the subtle differences in film, why it's beautiful, why it's different. And it'll be worth it in the end. If it's just going out to Instagram, you know, why bother? You got better things to do. All right. Well, thank you everyone for looking at this video. I am so happy to be back in 2022. I really hope to be putting out more content. I know I say that every single time, but I got a lot of people yelling at me now. So hopefully I'll get off my rump and actually produce some videos. Not that I'm on my rump. I'm really busy managing the photo store. So I'm trying my best, but I love and miss doing this, and hopefully we'll be doing more of it. All right, y'all have a great 2022. We'll see you soon.